Hi guys, and welcome back to World of Tanks, and sort of continuing looking at the sort of cheaper end of the premium tank scale, the more sort of cheap and cheerful. I'm looking at the Tier 4 German Panzer B2. Now this is a premium sort of captured version, and I think during the war the Germans did capture a few of these and put them to use. But yeah, it's a German captured version of the French B1, the Tier 4 heavy tank, and it joins a very rare breed of Tier 4 heavy tanks. There aren't many in the game. In fact, there used to just be the DW2, the German Tier 4, which has preferential matchmaking and only sees up to Tier 5. And then the French joined, and we got the B1 again, Tier 4, only sees up to Tier 5. And then the Japanese heavies joined, I think is it the Type 95 possibly, Japanese Tier 4, and again only sees up to Tier 5. But like I said, this is the German premium version, supposed to be captured, and this is the B2 as opposed to the B1, so it's slightly different to the B1. But this one gets very, very good preferential matchmaking and only sees its own tier or below. So this is a Tier 4 that only sees Tier 4 or below, and that makes it quite a potent opponent. When the French sort of first joined, and all we really got was the DW2 and the B1, there wasn't a great deal sort of Tier 4 and below that could reliably bother it, bother the B1, and it's same is kind of the case for this still. However, we have had a few additions now to the sort of the lower tier end, and although there were a few things down there, artillery is your main one, some of the TDs as well, there's still not a great deal that can sort of bother these reliably. One that I can think of that's been added into the game that does can give you a hard time in this is the T28 with the F30, the Armour, the premium T28 with the big gun. Yeah, that can ruin your day down at Tier 4. But other than that, there isn't a great deal. One of the main differences visually is the lack of 75mm hull gun, which has been removed and just plated up, but that is still a weak spot. So that curved plate on the left, as we're looking at it now, where the 75mm gun used to be, is a weaker spot on the front of the tank. Otherwise, you're looking at the driver's viewport. You can see there that square bit sticking out. Or try and go for the turret, because that is weaker than the hull, but it's still a very, very tough tank in those Tier 4 matches. Now, let's have a look. Price wise, well, it's 1,250. It's listed in Tankopedia. You can pick it up at the moment from the premium tank tech tree in the tech trees, which is wherever we are, and it's not gone onto it. That's really not useful, but anyway, where is it? There we go, Panzer B2. So at the moment you can pick it up from there, and that's what I've done. I've just grabbed it from there on the press account. I've a runabout in it, and it's one that I've been wanting to review for a while, but never again got round to. So, 340 horsepower engine, which is 10 less than a fully upgraded B1, but it doesn't really make much of a difference to the power to weight ratio, as we'll see shortly. You have a 4.7 centimeter SA35L34, which is sort of in between the Top Gun and the second Top Gun for the B1. The Top Gun, I think, has 60 penetration on its standard rounds and about 98 on its premium. This is 55 and 90, so yeah, there is a slight difference. But not too much again. So a good rate of fire, 27.63 rounds a minute. As I mentioned before, 53 pen, 52 damage, 90 on your premium rounds, and again 52 damage and 24.62 for your HE. Aim time 1.14 seconds, which is really good, and accuracy 0.39, which again isn't bad at all for the tier. Traverse speed, a hell of a lot better than the B1, which is about 26 or 28, fully upgraded. This has got 45 degrees for the hull, which is very good hull traverse on this. And 44 on the turret, which is the same as the B1 with a 330 meter view range. Now, what was I saying? Differences. Well, no, let's go into the supplies. Right, well, very, very cheap as you'd expect. 14 for your standard, 800 for your APCR, and again 13 for your HE. And again, I've just put the small sort of consumables on here because I've already got a brilliant crew with it being on the press account. So again, I didn't want to sort of mar it too much or sort of influence it too much. Equipment wise, I've gone for a gun lane drive, coated optics and vents. You can't put a gun rammer on this, which was a surprise to me, so that's why I've gone for those. And somebody asked me why on some of my heavies I put vents instead of coated optics. I generally put the vents on the really big, heavier, the slower heavies, just because the vents increase everything ever so slightly, increase your traverse by, everything basically by 5%, so your traverse, acceleration, etc, etc. That's why I generally do that. And with this one, I don't know, I probably wouldn't have gone for vents, I probably would have gone for optics and a gun lane drive if I could have a gun lane drive, but you can't, so it's a moot point. But yeah, so there you go. But yeah, the slight difference, I'll just show you in the B1. The top gun on this, 66, and a slightly better rate of fire, slightly better aiming time, but the same accuracy, and that's on the French B1 itself. But as you can see, only 28 degrees on the hull. Other than that, it's very, very similar. And like I said, in the Tier 4 matches, which is, well, all it gets into, it's a very tough little heavy tank. So what else have we covered? That's what we need to do. Look at these. Well, it's bonuses before we get into the actual stats and everything. 36% silver bonus and a 55% XP bonus. Now, something I will mention about this as well is I have had to fire premium rounds a few times, or a couple of times in matches, and again it's against some of the sort of newer stuff. The Sentinel, the AC1 I think it is, the Tier 4, and again some stuff that's already been in for a while, Matildas. You're going to have to fire that premium ammunition, but you've got quite a, like I say, quite a good premium ammo to fall back on. But you are going to have to get used to using some. If you don't, if you're not used to using premium ammunition as much, you are going to have to fire some against certain tanks, so do bear that in mind. However, I've not lost money yet, even when I used quite a bit of premium ammo. Still made about 40,000 silver, which is not bad for a Tier 4. But anyway, back to these. So 10 horsepower less than on the French B1, but the power to weight ratio isn't really affected. You get 11.58, which isn't great, but don't forget this is a heavy tank. The B1 gets 11.83, I think it is. So yeah, not really much of a difference to speak of. 30 kilometers an hour top speed. It will get there eventually. Going downhill helps, but yeah, it's a little bit slow, but yeah, you will get up there. Only 10 in reverse, so do bear that in mind. You're not going to be able to reverse out of trouble as quickly as you can go forwards into it. 20% chance of fire, so high chance of fire, and a fairly large engine going more or less from the back of the turret to the sort of slope of the rear engine deck there. Concealment, by the way, is not very good. It's a heavy tank at the end of the day. 0.13 for stationary and 0.07 for moving. Now, gun-wise, I'll just have a drink of my coffee. There we go. Right, elevation 20 degrees, which again is quite nice, kind of sort of an average gun elevation, but 10 degrees of gun depression as well, which is really nice. You can work the ridgelines quite well, increases obviously your frontal armour slightly. But don't forget the turret is one of the weaker parts on this tank, as opposed to the hull, but thankfully it's a small turret, so it's not particularly easy to hit. Terrain resistances are slightly different to the B1. I think they are 1.1, 1.3 and 2 for the B1. This is 1.14, 1.26 and 1.17 for the B2. So again, sort of swings around about, slightly better on some, slightly worse on others. Not really a great deal in it. Turret on top. Your main difference with your tracks is that huge difference in traverse, which does make a difference for when things are trying to circle you as well in this. Stuff that can circle you when you're in the B1 will struggle in this because you've got that better traverse. Radio is in the lower left hand side of the hull, sort of in the tracks. The tracks go around the hull very much like they do on the Churchills, so that's where that one is. Ammunition blocks towards, well, you've got a small one on the right of the tank towards the rear of the turret, as you can see there again, just below the tracks where they go around the hull. Slightly bigger one on the other side, which is a bit easier to hit, but still not the easiest. Crew members, you've got your commander up in the turret, which obviously he acts as loader and gunner as well. And then you've got the driver, the hull. Well, the hull would have been the hull gunner for the 75mm. And you've also got, who I'm assuming is the radio operator sat behind there, although he could be passing rounds up to the commander. But yeah, in these French tanks that was the problem. They were single-man turrets, and it was a nightmare because the commander was responsible for aiming, loading, firing, and also commanding and trying to look out for other tanks as well. So yeah, they didn't work particularly well with that. Now, armour-wise, do have a bit more to speak of than on the T2 that I reviewed. Well, turret armour is 46mm all round. Like I say, it is one of the weaker parts. You've got the big commander's hatch as well, although it has got some good sloping, but it is weaker than most of the rest of the tank. The hull armour is 60 on the front, 60 on the sides, and 55 on the rear. So don't forget this is a tier 4. That's a very tough little tank. You've got some decent sloping on the front, but like I mentioned before, as you can see, where the 75mm gun was, the mounting, that is a weak spot, and so is the driver's hatch on the front. Other than that, you've got to try and go for the commander's hatch, but the problem is down at tier 4 is the guns aren't always the most accurate, so it's not always the easiest to aim for weak spots like that. You can try and hide that weak spot when you're in this by angling the tank slightly and hiding it with your tracks. That does work. It has got very tough sides, so you know that can and does work. I've done that myself. And my throat's going again. Excuse me. Right, so armour brackets. Well, 1 to 20mm is your tracks. Don't forget they do act as spaced armour. And that small patch on the front of the turret just next to the main gun, which I think is a machine gun mounting, possibly, or it could be to do with aiming. I'm not entirely sure on that one. 21 to 30mm is your top deck, top of the turret, top of the commander's hatch. Now, that turret, it is weak on the top, but it is very well angled as well, so it is quite tricky to get through there. But if you've got a high caliber sort of howitzer, that sort of thing, that's a fairly decent place to go for, because it's quite thin, and some of those higher caliber howitzers, they have pretty good HE down at sort of tier 4 and below. In fact, I'm thinking of the Swedish TD, that'd be a good one. You've also got the bits sort of where the tracks go around the hull. You can see the top there and the bottom, they also fall into that bracket, but again, to get through those you've got to get through the tracks, and don't forget they do act as spaced armour. Again, you've got thinner parts where on the hull, but the tracks are in the way of those. You can just see those patches at the front and the back. The whole of the turret, more or less, the rest of it falls into that category. Now, that bit I mentioned before, like a machine gun mounting or the aiming thing, it does seem to be possibly spaced armour with hull behind it, so that might not be as weak as I first said. But the driver's hatch, that is definitely a weak spot on the front, and the 75mm gun mounting, so that's the places to go for on the front of one of these. And don't forget, if you're driving, try and hide that one as much as you can by a sort of angling or side scraping. Very good at side scraping, this tank. 51 to 70, so this is mostly your 60mm and your 55 for the sides and the rear, and it is basically all the flat parts on the sides just sort of fall into that bracket. So there is the top part of the hull behind the tracks, there are the sides of the hull that come through the tracks with the tracks going around it, and various bits on the front as well, and it is pretty much sort of solid all over. But don't forget, these are just the physical thickness. Angling does increase the effective thickness. And then 71 to 90 is just a thin strip around that gun mounting. So, you know, if you do miss the gun mounting and hit that, it's just unfortunate, but chances are you're probably going to miss that bit anyway, and either go through the gun mounting, or if you've got enough pen, go through the front of the tank itself. And I think that's about it, really. Skill-wise, you see, I'm not going on about skills really in this and the T2 Lite. One, because I've got these ridiculous crews, and two, because generally these lower tiers, you usually use them as crew trainers. So you'll either have fresh crews in there, or you just use them for having a bit of fun, so you just put whatever crew you want in there anyway. So that's why I've not really mentioned crew skills with this one. But again, let's get into the replays and see how it actually handles. Here we are for the first of the replays, tier 4 match, unsurprisingly. And one thing I did forget to mention in the garage review of this is it does have 30 less health than the fully upgraded B1. That has 430 health. This has 400, which is still a good amount, but it is, you know, 30 less. Which, you know, in a match, a tier 4 match especially, you know, that could mean the difference between staying alive or, you know, being killed. Those are just 30 health points. But again, you know, it's not a huge difference. I suppose it's made probably made to look a bit bigger by the fact that it, you know, it is tier 3, and you know, tier 4, and you know, 30 points at tier 4 is a lot more of a, you know, it's a bigger percentage than 30 points at tier 8. You know, 30 points at tier 8 is neither here nor there. But as you can see, I did take some damage from, I think it was Artie there. It wasn't the guys that came zipping in at me. It was Artie, and one of the, I'd say one of the bad habits that I noticed I've got with this when I was looking at these reviews back is not stopping to aim and shoot, but just locking on and sort of keep moving, and just sort of locking on and doing it that way, which it's not too bad. Because it's fairly slow, it's not too bad at firing on the move. But again, I mean, like most tanks, you know, the closer the thing, the more likely you are to hit it. And sometimes that accuracy can be a bit frustrating. I mean, that one, you know, without really aiming at it properly, hit. Now I'm aiming at it fully, and God knows where they're going. But, you know, it is quite a long distance to that one. It's sort of fairly far away. But again, you would have expected more than, you know, more than just that first one to actually hit at that range. So sometimes, like I said before, sometimes it's sort of at the more extreme range, the accuracy can be a bit of an issue for some reason, and I don't know why, because it's not as though it's really got far to go. You know, the tank, even at this range, that small light tank is more or less filling the aiming circle. So, but yeah, just sometimes it does. And again, with stuff at a distance as well that's quick moving, the shell velocity on these standard shells can be a little bit off-putting, and you sometimes have to lead it just a bit more. But again, that's just sort of your more extreme range. And you'll see I've not had to fire any premium ammunition yet against some of these, although I did bounce a little bit off that light tank. Bounced 1 or 2 off him. But the only damage I've taken so far was from that Artie. And now it's just a case of, well, there's not really much left, to be honest. It's just a case of trying to get to whatever's left and do a bit of damage. But no, both gone. Medium tank got 1. TD got the other. In fact, an FCM Pz.Kpfw, which is a very nasty little TD. Very good view range and quite a nasty gun on it as well. But I think it's its view range down at tier 3. And it's got something like a 400 meter view range, which is absolutely ridiculous. Although, why do I think that's wrong now? But anyway, it's got a ridiculous view range on it, the FCM-36 Pz.Kpfw. And again, like I say, coupled up with a bit of a nasty gun. But we're here to talk about the B2. It didn't come in top, that was the FCM-36. He came top, well done to him, with a decent amount. So not a great deal of damage done in that one, only 500, but bear in mind it's only 55 per shot, so that was 11 penetrating hits that got me that. This one is a bit of a higher damage one. And again, you know, tier 4, like I said, it only sees tier 4. But that hull traverse on this does kind of change it a bit. I think I mentioned in the garage, because I did the garage review actually yesterday, straight after the T2 one. But I think I mentioned in the garage review about how things that can quite easily circle B1 struggle to circle this, because the hull traverse is a lot better. And again, just sort of as I said in the garage, your main weak spots on this is, I mean, most people obviously go for the rear of the tank or try and go for the sides, whereas the sides and rear are about as tough as each other on this, which are all about as tough as the front. So if you are against one of these, turret is weaker than the hull. You've got like commander's hatch as well, although again the turret is fairly small on this. Or if you've got the front of the hull, that curved portion to the right hand side of the hull, where the 75mm used to be mounted, that is a weaker spot. I suppose a weak spot, and it's a fairly sizable one on the front of the hull as well. So that's what you want to go for. And again, you know, I know I mentioned this in the garage, but you want to try and angle it if you can, so that the front of your track covers that as much as possible. You can go quite almost, possibly even almost a 45-degree angle against a lot of stuff, because the sides are quite thick. so it can bounce at that sort of extreme angle. As you can see with this Lux, although I am trying to manoeuvre, that's why I've just locked on, picking when to shoot when he's more or less in front of me. I was surprised that one hit, and that's when I started aiming. Now I took a hit from something there. I think that was the Lux that sprayed me, and I think he did manage to get through that. He either got through that weak spot, or he switched to premium ammo himself. And as you can see against this Panzer 2J, because of just how he's angled, and he's not angled a lot, and I've got his side as well, but some of them are just going slightly high or slightly low, and they're just getting eaten by the tracks. So I did have to swap to premium ammo there, because, well, as you saw, I was just firing my standard ammo, and it just kept bouncing or getting eaten up by the tracks. So again, as I said in the garage, you are going to have to get used to firing some premium ammunition in this. I mean, I generally, in most tanks, I don't really use premium ammo at all, unless I really, really have to, and I don't know what just happened to the sound there. That's my capture card, I think, again. That buzzing, I don't know if that came through on the actual video, but yeah, apologies for that. There's not much I can do to edit that out. But now in that Sentinel, and that's one of the ones I mentioned, was the Sentinel. And where he is just angled enough so that I keep bouncing. And the M3 Lee, again, frontally against the M3 Lee, to reliably get rid of him, I did have to swap to my premium ammo again. But I managed to take him down. The Sentinel's backed off, and if I can get his rear, I might be alright with the standard ammunition, but I've not swapped. I've actually kept it as premium. I don't know if I don't think I realised, and I think I did mean to actually swap it then. Either that, or I just kept it as a premium because I was going after the Sentinel and I wanted to take him down. And I probably just left it on the premium just to make sure that he's gone. Now there's that Lux again over there. The Sentinel, not the great acceleration, but he's got a decent top speed, but he did turn around to come back and try and deal with me. And I'm glad I left the premium loaded, because if I hadn't, that probably wouldn't have gone through the front of that. The Lux is taken down, and what we've got left, we've got a Hetzer. Now, where's the sneaky Hetzer? Swap back to my standard ammunition, because if I can get the side or the rear of it, that won't be a problem. If I don't, and I come up against the front of it, and again, I know I said there's not a great deal that can bother these down at Tier 4, TDs and RT. They're your main threats down at Tier 4 with this. So I'm going to be cautious about this Hetzer. And where is he? I know he's around this corner, and hopefully he might be looking the other way because something just went through his cap. And he is. I've got his back, so I'm quite happy with that. If he starts to turn, I'll try and track him, but for now I can just sit here and just put them into his backside. So yeah, TDs are an issue for this tank. Obviously RT is an issue when you're in this tank, but other than that, you can be fairly confident against nearly everything else you'll come up against. And it's just a bit of a learning curve. I can't think of much off the top of my head apart from obviously T28. Things with howitzers, obviously they'll do a bit of splash and what have you. But there you go. The Pz.Kpfw, again, quite a good, fun little tank. One that I may add to my collection for a bit of crew training, but I kind of enjoyed it. And again, it's, I think it's about a £5 in that one. So not a bad price at all. But anyway, hope you've enjoyed that. Hope you found it informative. We'll be back tomorrow with another video for you. So until then, take care out there, and I'll catch you next time. See you later.